Now, more than ever, we need to focus on stories of strength, courage, and unity. Welcome to COVA Talks, a series dedicated to promoting positive conversations during uncertain times.
All right, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to COVA Talks, positive conversations during uncertain times. My name is Anthony Rapp. I'll be your host tonight. We have a great show tonight. We have a guest friend of mine, Danny Casella, president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, who's going to be with us shortly. But before we get to our guest, we're going to do as we've been doing in the past. We're going to get to some positive headlines right now. First up in the positive headline area, this weekend, as we all know, is Easter. Easter Sunday is coming up. So a local Staten Island company, Lucy's Costume Characters, they're actually offering free visits from the Easter Bunny. So you can call them at 917-417-6957, and they will actually send an Easter Bunny, depending on availability, to your home to visit your children, to try and restore some sense of normalcy to what's become, somewhat of an unnormal life. So once again, shout out to Lucy's. Thank you for doing that. 100% free, and obviously depending upon availability of the Easter Bunny. And they will practice social distancing. So don't worry, they're not going to, put the kids in their laps or anything like that. They'll be far enough away to be safe, but close enough to, return a sense of normalcy to some kids in your life. Next up, we have something interesting. We have a 21-year-old college student. Her name is Ashley Lawrence. And something I never thought about, I'm not sure if anyone else has thought about, but everyone's making masks, everyone's distributing masks, and rightfully so. We're thankful for all the people who are doing this. However, Ashley, what she's done is she's making and distributing specialty masks that are designed for people who are hard of hearing or unable to communicate. So in other words, deaf or people who are unable to hear well rely on either sign language or reading lips. So what she's done is it's pretty amazing. She's created face masks with the ability to see your lips. So these people who tend to be elderly in nature are able to still communicate and be safe simultaneously. So Ashley, shout out to you. That's something great. And finally, if you're like most people, as you're stuck home, you're drinking probably more than usual. So what one pub in London has done is they've actually created a virtual pub scenario. So what they'll do is you're able to log into their website, you book a room, you can see all of your friends in that room, and prior to entering the room, you'd pre-order your beer or liquor, they'll deliver it to your house, and then you can get on a Zoom meeting with liquor delivered from your favorite pub or your favorite bar, and actually hang out together in one virtual room or one virtual chat. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of Staten Island's locations doing that. I'd love to see Joyce's Tavern in Eldonville do that. I'd love to see places like Richmond Republic start doing this. So maybe we'll see something like this happen on Staten Island, where we could reach out to a local bar or a local eatery. We could support them financially because they need it. But more importantly, we could also try and be together and enjoy ourselves like we did in the past. So that's it for our headlines. Before we get into our guest and before I introduce Danny, just two quick shout outs. So the way you can keep up to date with what we're doing and what we're talking about, you can follow us at Facebook at COVA Talk. You can visit our website at covid-talks.com. You can check out all of our videos of past episodes at YouTube at COVA Talks. And we're also ripping the audio from every one of these episodes. And we have a podcast available on iTunes and on Spotify. So we invite you to check us out there anytime as well. And if you're interested in being a guest, if you'd like to join us for a COVID talk, or if you simply have an idea or a topic that you'd like to hear about, shoot us an email at info@prcision.com, and we'd be more than happy to get you guys on and get your guest on to talk about topics of interest to you. All right. So with that, without any further ado, I am going to bring back from the green room, we're going to bring Danny Casella, a friend of mine, the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union, also a board member of the South Shore Business Improvement District. So ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We have Danny Casella. So Danny, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Anthony.
Perfect. So before I go into my questions, I want to commend you, and I also want to let anyone watching or listening later on know, that right now, what we're doing, you and I, has become somewhat normal. But you have been a pioneer in this. You have been doing virtual broadcasts through Facebook Live and other social media channels for months. Now, I've been watching you do it. You did it as a matter of practice, not out of necessity. You did it just because you were smart enough and you said, what's a great way to engage the members of the union? What's a great way to speak with their families? What's a great way to get the message out? And you've been doing this. So before I even ask you to go into anything, I just want to commend you personally, because you're way ahead of what other people are doing. People are trying to catch up right now, but you're smooth sailing. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Great work. So before we talk about everything else, just tell us a little bit about yourself, upbringing. Tell us about the union and your role and what's going on.
All right. I'm living in Staten Island 55 years. I moved here, obviously, when I was younger with my parents. Married for 37 years. I have three children and 3 girls and 2 grandchildren, grandson and a granddaughter. My granddaughter happens to be living with me right now. My daughter had purchased a house and they knocked it down and the construction stopped. They so obviously they're way behind in the construction, and my daughter, son-in-law, and granddaughter moved in with me. So it just turns out it worked out really well, because otherwise I wouldn't get to see my granddaughter. Just like now, my grandson, I can't get to see my grandson. It's been a couple of weeks now, and we FaceTime every night and call on the phone, but it's nothing like seeing them in person. So, and I've been working for the Transit Authority for 26 years. I've been the president for the last 8 years, and hopefully another term before I retire if the members elect me.
We'll help you any way we can.
Yes, I appreciate that. And that's about it.
And how many members do you have, Danny?
1,900 active and 600 retired.
Wow. Okay. 1,900 active and 600 retired. So can you paint a picture for us as to what's going on right now on a day-to-day? So, they're out there working. We all know this, but what's it like? What are they doing? How are they going about their normal routine? What's become their new normal for these guys and gals?
I was just going to say, you nailed it with the word normal. There's nothing normal anymore. The way it would normally work, guys would come to work in the morning, sit in the break room, probably at any given time, 100, 150 people up there, waiting to go out and do their trip to the city or a local bus to the ferry. And right when this started, and I did catch some flack for it too, when this just started really taking off, this virus, I had my union officials remove all the furniture from the building. And I says, they are not going to sit around there and pass this back and forth to each other. It's not going to happen. And I took a lot of flack for it, but I honestly believe I'm not going to say save lives because that's a little drastic, but I think I prevented a lot of people from passing it back and forth, because we've had quite a few people. We had, at one point, a high point, we had about 550 to 560 members that were out, either came in contact with somebody with the virus or had the virus. I mean, the numbers have come down now, but I did notice I get an email every day from the Transit Authority for the 5 boroughs on how many people are infected, and the people infected actually is going up instead of going down. So there's more and more people that are affected. And that's why I said, if I took the furniture out and separated the members, which we did, because normally they'd have to come up the stairs and report upstairs in a big room, I had them move it downstairs. So they don't even go upstairs into the building anymore. We don't even see each other anymore. They just come, report, and go out on the bus. And then when they come back at the end of their shift, if they have a little break in between, they either sit in their car or go home if they close by.
So what is pedestrian, the traffic utilizing the buses? What does that look like? Is it still,
it's obviously it's not as busy. The express buses, we had to eliminate 22 of the 26 routes on the express because, 2 reasons. Low ridership obviously was one of them, and the second one was we did not have enough drivers to go out there and pick up the people that were out there. So it was more of a fake schedule. You know, the people would look at the schedule and there's no bus coming because there's no driver.
Right.
So we were only fooling ourselves if we were trying to keep the service going, which we did try for the longest. And finally, which will start this Sunday, by the way, it'll just be 4 routes, the same 4 that run every Saturday and Sunday. So they'll be running. And, you know, I am going to work with the transit authority to see if there's some way to, you know, because I see Philippa on Facebook a lot. She is the chief organizer of this group that's on Facebook, and they have a lot of good ideas. They've helped us with some stuff. We've helped them with some stuff, and there are some areas that are going to be underserved, and if we can help them in some way, we're going to try to do that. But again, it's all about the members. If their members are not here, and just like everybody else, we get sick just like everybody else.
So how will is there like a central location? Is there a website? Is there a Facebook page, a Twitter handle? Where can an average person such as myself find out or stay as close to up to date as possible with real-time information about routes and scheduling?
Yeah, they have, if you go to mta.info.
MTA.info? Okay.
Yeah, mta.info. And there's even a text messaging system you can sign up for, and they'll give you alerts on certain things that happen during the day, or if service gets canceled. But that mta.info will, you know, you navigate through all different drop down boxes in there,
and you'll be able to figure it out. So let's take a step back. I want to go back and I want to talk about, and I'd like you to spend a little time on it because I think it's important and I think it's great what you were doing. So prior to now, as I mentioned, where this has become, everybody's doing it, right? I would have never done this, but here we are, and I'm talking to you through my computer.
Right.
But you've been doing this through Facebook Live for months. And what made you do it? And do you think it made you better prepared? What's the response from membership?
Well, I'll tell you the truth. We have a couple of different things. I mean, I certainly have done it more now than I have done it before, you know, because of the times that's happening, and things are changing. Actually, I used to say things will change by the day. Now it's changing by the minute.
Right.
So, you know, in order to get have my members up to date, you have to, be able to talk to them. So I also have a text messaging system that I put into place last year. And out of that 1,900 members, I probably have just close to 1,500 of their phone numbers. And I send out messages during the day to the bus operators and the mechanics, whoever has signed up for it. And that's helped immensely also. And the Facebook Live, I find is interesting because I know a lot of the families watch, a lot of the members' wife, or if it's a woman bus driver, the husband watches. And it's good because they could hear, everything firsthand also.
And what's the response been from members and members' families? I mean, not everybody would do that. You've been doing it, and religiously. So do they think it's great? Are they happy that they're up to date and they could view and see and watch?
Oh, yeah. No, without a doubt. I mean, listen, you can't please everybody. I mean,
right. Well,
my job is no different than anyone else's job. You have that many members, very difficult to keep everybody happy. But I do think for the most part, I keep most of the people happy, and I guess that's why they've kept me president.
Yeah, well, that's why. So again, no one knows the answer, but in your opinion of having so much experience and dealing with the city agencies, dealing with red tape and all the things that no one really wants to deal with, what do you think, or what do you feel the next few weeks holds with transportation as it,
Yeah, I tell you the truth, I don't see it coming back anytime soon. I really don't. I think we're in this for the long haul. I hope and believe me, I hope I'm 100% wrong, but I can't see it coming back anytime soon. It's a Sunday schedule basically that we're running now, all 7 days a week, and I really don't see it coming back, soon, because if you look to the ferry, they reduce service now. They're going to reduce some overnight service. The Staten Island Rapid Transit there, they reduce service. So everybody's reducing service because the ridership is down. And actually, that's a real good thing that the ridership is down, because that means they're listening to everybody and staying home. I think going forward, I think a lot of these companies too are going to change the way they do business. I think this is going to be a game changer as far as, people are renting office space, and they're going to start figuring out what are we renting space for? We could have these. I mean, like we're doing. We're talking, right? You know, I purchased the Zoom program for my executive board, and
Right.
we do a Zoom meeting 3-4 times a day. I have to do my executive board meeting. We're required to do one a month. We and obviously we're going to do it through Zoom. My financial secretary, he emailed us all the financial reports so we can review them and approve them. And it's just a different way of doing business, and we're managing.
Well, it's good. That's good. That's good to hear that you're managing and you're doing well with it. Are there any of the, even though ridership is down, is there any line in particular that still is seeing traffic? And I'm wondering, because I wonder if there's a reason why. One,
yes, and as soon as I tell you why, you're gonna understand.
All
Amazon.
Right. Okay.
We service the Amazon facility, and that's like a city in itself. There's so many people in there and so many workers in there, and you know, so that particular line is still very, very busy. It's almost like when it was Christmas and the holidays, they put on extra staff. So there's extra staff in there now, and it's a little bit of an issue because we had to chain off 3/4 of the bus so nobody goes near the bus driver, and we keep that 6-foot barrier. And so obviously with that 6-foot barrier, it created a overcrowding on the bus for the people. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I can tell you we're not social distancing on that bus. So, you know.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So how do you apply social distancing on a bus?
Well, what the transit did, which I got to commend them for this, we have extra operators just standing by. We know when the Amazon shifts end now, and we were having a hard time. They weren't really cooperating the way they should have with us, and we were only trying to help them. And finally, we got a hold of somebody that actually gave us the schedule, and now we could line the buses up with the exit of all the people coming out. And believe me when I tell you, it's a lot of people. So
I can imagine.
Yeah, so we have a lot of buses there now at the time of their departure, and we're helping them too, because they could separate a little bit on the bus instead of being packed in, and it's not good for anybody when that happens.
Now, I remember years ago when I was working in the city, just like a lot of the people on Staten Island, you get on the express bus, you crammed in, you go to work, you come home, you crammed in, you're done for the day. Do you think that eventually, when we get back to whatever normal is going to be, that riders are going to respond differently and act differently on public transportation, on a bus? Do you see that changing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think for a while, like right now, nobody wants to sit next to one another.
Right.
Right. You don't want to sit right next to the person because, as you know, you've been on a bus, you really are right on top of the person, right? I mean, if that person sneezes or coughs, there's nowhere for you to go. So right now, what we're doing with the express buses, we're people themselves have figured it out, and they're kind of doing every other seat, and they're keeping themselves a distance, you know. And if they do it that way, the bus would hold 22 people with doing that, compared to the way we would normally do, 50 people basically on a bus. But now it's around 22 people, 24 people if you want to use the last seat in the back, and no one sits next to you. We could get 24 in there. You could spread out on the last seat, which is like a bench seat. So, but yeah, I do think it'll change, and I do think once if you want to use the word go back to normal, I don't know if that's going to happen for a long time, but to go back to normal, I do think people will be very leery, and maybe even start to get into some arguments with people about sitting next to them. I could see that happening. Yes.
What do you think day one looks like? So the country is open, skies are open, the world is good again. Do we have thousands of people waiting to get on these buses, and we have not enough buses to service them, or are you ready and the guys are ready to take care of it?
Oh yeah, no, the buses will be ready. Yeah, the buses will be ready, and we'll be out there just like we have been all these days. And I got to commend all my employees for the work that they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of people that would not do what they're doing right now. I can tell you that.
No, I agree. So I got a double-edged question for you.
Yeah.
What was the biggest hurdle in your position to try and overcome throughout these past couple of weeks? And then what was if it makes sense to call it an achievement, what would you say the biggest achievement was that you were able to ascertain or get or implement for both yourself and members driving out there?
I think right now the most important thing I got was one for the union purchasing the protective equipment for my members. And I think that's why we actually have a low number of people that tested positive. We have people that are on self-quarantine. And then the second biggest thing, which is just as important, was I think I was one of the first ones, if not the first one, to demand that the transit not collect any fares and have everyone board through the rear. And I think that helped a lot of my members, so they weren't in direct contact with the public, because, you've rode a bus before, and sometimes with the fare box, people are, fooling around trying to get a card, trying to get this, trying to get that. And, they drop this, drop that, and they're right on top of the driver. So I think those two things I'm very proud of that I was able to accomplish. And I think it helped the members immensely.
So go back, because I didn't even realize that. So explain that to me. So now if I were to go on, let's say an express bus or any of the buses that are running, the procedure is different. I'm entering through the back.
Yeah, the express bus though only has a front door, so there's no way to eliminate that.
Correct.
Right, but the local buses, which were the more crowded buses,
right,
all the boarding is through the rear, and we have chains going across the seats, so you can't go to the front where the driver is. So obviously there's no fare collection on the local buses, and they recommend that the people pay on the express bus, but to me it is what it is. And and I'd be honest with you, I'd rather you not even stop up there and go by the driver. That's just my opinion.
So those were two major accomplishments, and it makes a lot of sense to implement what you said. So what was one or two hurdles that were just something you had to overcome that you couldn't get through it?
I'll tell you, the one big hurdle, and it's affected TW Union in Brooklyn and Manhattan more than it has affected me. They've lost over 30 members have passed away from their local. And I think the biggest thing was the hurdle. I was in many meetings when this was just starting, and we asked for the protective equipment, and they refused.
But you were able to get it.
Well,
eventually.
I believe your employer should have to pay for it, where I paid for it, or my members paid for it out of their dues money. They paid. They in essence bought their own stuff. I was able to track it down, but they actually paid for their own equipment. And that's one hurdle that I feel the Transit Authority could have did a better job in supplying us with masks right from the beginning, and gloves, and that did not happen.
So now you and I spoke in the green room before. So the Beanie Fund is going to provide you with some masks. We have them. We'll bring them. But, and I don't want to cause chaos here, but is there a way that someone could reach out to you if they do have supplies that they'd be willing to give you to donate to your members, masks, gloves, etc.? Is that something that would be okay to do?
Gloves. We're okay with gloves. We bought over 50,000 pair of gloves.
Wow. Okay.
So we have plenty of gloves and hand sanitizers. The same thing. I think we bought 400 cases of hand sanitizer. You have 1,900 members. I know all of this sounds like a lot. It's not a lot.
Right.
You could go through 4 or 5 pairs of gloves a day.
Right. Because you're talking big numbers.
Right. And all of this stuff, just so anyone is on here listening, and so just so they know, any of this stuff that we got is not usable in a hospital. It's not, the grade is not good enough for the hospital. So, I made sure that we didn't take any supplies from the hospital workers, because, obviously they needed more than we needed because of their profession. And as a matter of fact, we actually donated some masks because we did get a few N95 masks, and we donated them to some nurses.
So what, if you had to give sort of like a state of the union, where are we now and where do you think we're headed?
Well, I think we're as good as we could get with the transit right now. I don't think we're going to get worse than what it is. The best scenario to me would be is if the buses are empty. That's a good sign. If the buses are empty, that means that people are listening. And I understand that there's a lot of people that need the bus, and that's why we're out there. We're taking nurses to work. We're taking, I know people didn't think of food workers as essential, but without them, right? Where would we be right now if we didn't have the food workers? So, and the nurses, we have firemen getting on our bus, we have police getting on our bus, and and the police department they got hit very hard too. The police department,
Yeah.
very hard, and I think 20 or 25% of their membership is either quarantined or with the virus, and they're dealing with people all day long, just like the nurses are. They're dealing with people and saving people's lives. I just hope after all of this is over, that people really appreciate the work that we do, the bus drivers and the firemen, the police, the nurses, and sometimes all of us combined, we don't get the credit that we really deserve sometimes. But glad to help, and we will be out there until the end of this.
So I'm going to take a quick break, let you breathe a minute. We're going to introduce our COVA Talks Hero of the Day. For anybody who is watching or listening, we'll accept a question or two when we get back. But last week we started and created a new segment of the show, which I like and I wish I would have thought of sooner. But it's the COVID Talks Hero of the Day. So today we are proud to announce that the Dr. Theodore Atlas Foundation here on Staten Island is our COVID Talks Hero of the Day. The Atlas Foundation is well known here on Staten Island. For those of you unfamiliar, it is a nonprofit organization run by the boxer Teddy Atlas. They are philanthropic, very much so, particularly in Staten Island, with regard to helping in time of need. So what they did was they went out and they purchased 1,000 hams, and they are distributing these hams to first responders and people on Staten Island who are unable to get out, who are homebound, or who cannot get food for themselves. So we salute the Teddy Atlas Foundation. We thank them for their service. And tomorrow night, we invite you to tune in, because tomorrow night we have what we're calling the most anticipated show we've had, just because of the response and the emails we've gotten. So tomorrow night, we are going to speak with Daniela and Tracy Kengiano. They are the creators and founders of a new Facebook group called Quarantine Kitchen. So right now, if you are stuck in the house, most likely you're drinking and you're definitely eating. And what they've done is this Facebook group grew from 1 member to over 10,000 in about 3 days. Right now, I'm not sure where they're at, but I'm a member myself. But what they do is they share recipes, they share tips, they share all kinds of stuff, and it has grown exponentially. So we're going to speak with the 2 individuals responsible for starting the group, ask them rather what their plans are for the future. I believe they're going to launch a cookbook, all kinds of stuff. But again, Quarantine Kitchen has a Facebook group and a Facebook page. It's been a great way for people to get their minds off of what's going on outside, and also to, spend family time together, cook as a family, eat as a family, enjoy everything as a family. So with that, let's go back. Let's see. Danny's there. So I'm going to look over in the comments. We're going to see. There may not be any comments, Danny, but we're going to look. We're going to see what we got. Let's see who we have in there for real estate. So we got Vito, our good friend Vito. Thank you, Vito, for always watching. For real estate purposes, we hope that people will rent office spaces. That's going back to what was said earlier. May or June would be great, but until the vaccine is discovered, it could be longer. I guess that's a comment about what you had said earlier, Danny, about when we're hoping to get back to normal. All right, so we don't have to have any questions. That's okay. Do you have any? I don't want to call them parting comments, but any positive vibes we could put out there right now as to, even if it's just telling your workers, guys and gals, you're doing great. Anything you have that you want to end on?
Yeah, well, listen, I do that every night on Facebook. I definitely thank them for the job that they're doing, and and that'll continue every night until this is over. And I just want to say, our condolences to the people that were lost. I noticed a lot of people on Staten Island have succumbed to this terrible disease, this virus, and my heart goes out to them, and our condolences to their family. And that's just a terrible thing. It's just a terrible thing. And hopefully, I just hope we get through this as quickly as possible.
Well, Danny, again, I want to thank you for taking time out. For those of you who are interested, Danny, even if they're not members, where can they watch you within the next 20 minutes? Where can they see your next live broadcast?
Yeah, well, they got to become friends with me because I do it.
Oh, okay. So use a private page.
Yeah.
All right. So Danny has his next webcast like he does every night for his union members.
Yeah.
That takes place at 7:30. So we're going to let him get out of here. Want to thank you again. And as you did say, you know what? You're right. First responders, we're thinking immediately cops, firemen. And that's correct to think so, but you know, your members, the bus drivers that are out there are taking the first responders in some cases to their job. They're on the front lines. They're out there every day. They're working hard. So we thank them for their service. God bless them. Danny, once again, thank you for being with us, and we'll hopefully see everybody tomorrow night at 7 p.m. for our next edition of COVA Talks, where we discuss quarantine kitchen. So Danny, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.